It's wonderful to see so many people out tonight. I'll call the meeting to order.
And please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will start the night right off with student recognitions, and I know that's why a lot of you are here. So with no further ado.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to come up here. All right, good evening. Welcome. Thank you all for coming out for our March board meeting. So before we jump into the regular part of the board meeting, one of the things we like to do every month in our meetings, first meeting of the month we recognize students, second meeting of the month we recognize staff. And so we have several students with us tonight who are Hempfield students who attend the CTC, and those students participated in the skills competition and placed. And so we have tonight Evan George, placed third in the HVAC competition. He's part of the HVAC program. So is Evan here tonight? Evan, come on up, Evan. So, Evan, can you just share for the group, just briefly, what did you have to do as part of the HVAC competition?
All right, so I trained a little bit in my classroom, and I went to the Berks County Technical School, and I competed against 6 other students, and yeah, I got third. So pretty good.
Well, congratulations,
All right,
Evan.
thank you.
Thank you. We're very proud of you and all your hard work. Abigail Matos placed first in the pin design competition, and Abigail's part of the commercial arts program. Is Abigail here tonight? Abigail's not able to be here. Okay, we will make sure she gets this. Congratulations, Abigail. And then we also have Mary Ellie Solis, placed first in the customer service competition, and she's part of the veterinary assistant program. Is Mary Ellie here tonight? Come on up. Congratulations. Do that. And you want to share with the group what did you have to do as part of that competition?
It's kind of like an overall customer service thing. What I had to do, it was kind of like a receptionist position. I had to give directions and be able to check people in and giving money and collecting things from them.
Great. Well, congratulations. So for all, both of you, as well as Abigail, who is not able to be here tonight, we want to just say how proud we are of all the work that you do, not only here within the district, but also at the CTC. You represent the district very well, not only there, but also in the competitions, and we're just very proud of you. So keep up the great work. And again, congratulations. And also tonight, March is our annual tradition where we honor Youth Art Month. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to our department coordinator, Ms. Burns. There we go.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Good evening. Let's see. I'm going to try to include everybody here. All right. I want to get started by saying welcome. We are so happy to have our student artists. On behalf of the art department, the Hempfield Art Department, I'd like to welcome our honored student artists and their families to our annual Youth Arts Month presentation. Thank you, School Board, for allowing us to use your boardroom gallery to share their work. Youth Arts Month is a national celebration held every month to emphasize the value of visual art education for children and encourage public support and quality school arts programming. It showcases K-12 students' talent through quality exhibitions, fundraisers, and community events, while highlighting the skills gained through art, such as creativity, problem solving, and observation. Tonight, I am joined with a group of excellent art teachers who get to call every month Youth Arts Month. I will let each teacher introduce him or herself as they come up to the podium to present their student certificates. And you can go to the next slide, please. We're going to start with the Centerville Elementary student we are recognizing. This is Mason Scarito Thomas. I just want to say a few words about Mason. When I shared the theme with him, it was back in like November or December, and I was trying to get a feel to see, like, does Mason want to do this? Because I think he'd be pretty good. This seems like it would be right up Mason's alley, because I was sharing the theme. So we had that was the other thing I forgot to say. This year we're doing a theme that's based on sort of place. So like place close by and far away. And we focused a lot on Hempfield area, Lancaster County, and kind of beyond. So architecture, maps, you'll start to hear from some of the other art teachers. And as I was telling Mason about it, like before I could even finish the explanation of what it was, he said, what paper should I use? Like, he's like, I'm gonna get started. So like, this is Mason, because he is extremely driven, he's extremely focused, and his work is pretty incredible. So I'm really proud to be his art teacher, and I have to say that like, this is 100% Mason. Like, he was taking it home, he was working on it, he was really all in, and I kind of just was like, here's your paper, right? So I'm so proud of you, Mason, and I would like to welcome you up to get your certificate.
And while the others are going, I see Dr. Decker out in the lot. Dr. Decker, if there's any other families out there, can you have them come in, please? Thank you.
Good, thanks.
All right, good evening. My name's Dr. Jamie Lynn Brown, and I'm here representing Centerville Middle School, and I'm here to introduce you to Miss Stella, one of my students. You can join me up here, Stella, you're good. Then I can say the nice things to your face. And I do have lots of nice things to say about Miss Stella, and she is a student of mine and also a David Bowie fan. We share that in common, as referenced in her artist statement up there. Stella hopes to travel to London someday. She did an academic project with National History Day on David Bowie and his impact, and she was able to relate that to her artwork, carving out the city streets of London in this print. So she spent 3 weeks carving every little tiny detail with the tiniest little chisel I had, and she had a lot of dedication with doing that. And I'm so proud of what she's been able to do, and I'm also proud that she's able to make her work both have personal meaning and also relevant to her academic studies. So congratulations, Stella, on your hard work.
Good evening. My name is Amy Smith, but I'm here to present the artwork of Miss Maddie Young. She is a student of Lauren Miller at the high school. If you look over, you have her piece on the screen, but also it's in the display case if you want to see it there too. So this was given to me to share about Maddie's artwork. It was inspired by the history of Hempfield and the local school spirit. Maddie continues to demonstrate exceptional creativity and technical skill. Her latest work, Noble Steed, which is the one that we're looking at, is a testament to her dedication, blending local heritage with a high standard of excellence she brings to every assignment. So, congratulations to Maddie. We can applaud her even though. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dan Clark. I'm one of the teachers at the high school. And I know Kelsey intended to be here. Kelsey, are you here somewhere? Maybe I just didn't see you. Okay. So I will be presenting this to her in the classroom, but this is her work. This is kind of a humble local place. Is that I asked her what this was, and she says, well, that's the view from the Scoops parking lot. So this is the close building close by. So if you didn't recognize it right away, like the trolley line cafe or coffee. So I will hand this to her. Thank you very much.
Hi,
I'm Amy Edwards. I'm one of the teachers at the high school. My student, I have two students, Jaden Lawton was planning on being here tonight. He's not able to. I just wanted to point out something he says in his artist statement, where he says, "It's amazing how we as young artists in the making can gather an inspiration from the ordinary and transform it into..." Yeah. Something completely different and unique. Yay, A building is transformed into a ring and could be transformed into something incredible like the rest of the art exhibited here. Thank you all for the support of us. Thank you, Jaden. And Jaden drew inspiration, okay, from the Riley brothers and it's switched on me too fast, but there it is, the building in downtown. Riley Brothers and Robb Building in downtown Lancaster. Thank you. Congratulations. And there was a little snafu at last-minute addition to Maya, but it's always good to recognize another student. Maya Altieri is a senior. She could not be here tonight. Her necklace, she drew inspiration from Lancaster Central Market. And she too talks about these are represented by the coiled arches and dangling beads. This project was challenging, yet the process was rewarding. Thank you all for taking time to appreciate the wonderful art in our schools. Two very grateful students. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, I'm Beth Blackledge from LIC, and I'd like to ask Ashton, Ashton, come on up. I don't know if it's possible, but I created an animation video. If you click on the picture, no, okay. So this is a reverse perspective lesson that I tried this year, focusing on the inside instead of the outside of a building, and Ashton really knocked it out of the park. And he also included the golden ratio, and I was explaining to him that that's not something that I learned about until I was a sophomore in college. So, and I'm still learning about it. So I'm hoping that he could teach me a thing or two. So it's hanging up over on the side there, and the goal is just to kind of walk by it slowly, and you're not sure if it's popping out at you or if it's moving back in the distance, a little bit of both. So congratulations, buddy.
Hi, I'm Macy Bowie. I teach at Landisville Primary Center. My student is Isabella. You can come and join me. So Isabella is in 3rd grade this year, and she created a community map of her favorite place, which is LPC, so it's an aerial view. And I felt a little bad for Isabella because I was out on maternity leave. I just came back, and so she didn't get to finish the second half of the project. But you can just see her dedication as an artist because she created the piece that's over here on the wall as well, kind of in response to this piece, which was her favorite room within the building, and she did that in just one day. And it's really quite amazing. It's her favorite room, which is Mrs. Moore's room, with her teacher and all of her friends. So congratulations, Isabella.
Piper Hess, would you like to join me up front here? My name's Carla Rupp, and I have Piper Hess from East Petersburg Elementary School, and we are doing a collaborative project with Mrs. Bowie at LPC. So her map project is where you live, right? So we were looking at things that were important to us and our homes, and Piper zoomed in on Google Earth and used that to help create her map. And she's just a wonderful art student who is so positive and so encouraging of all of her classmates. So I'm really excited to award Piper.
Thank you.
All right, and I am speaking for Ms. Kabiko. Is Niti here tonight? Hi, Needy. Okay. Do you want to come up? I'll read it to you. So this is what Ms. Kabiko has to share about you. Congratulations. She says, I am honored to present Neeti and her work tonight. Neeti's work depicts the highly visible architectural changes she remembered seeing when she moved to America as a child. Neeti cares deeply about her work and is always willing to invest her time, energy, and often her worries in order to do the best possible work she can do. Her commitment is notable as it permeates every aspect of her life. Congratulations, Neeti.
It's me. Hey, everybody. I'm Mike Palmer. I teach at Mountville, and I have the pleasure of working with Miriam. Miriam, are you interested in coming up? All right, outstanding. We'd love to have you. This is Miriam, and I keep saying it. Yeah, this is Miriam, and she embodies everything that an artist wishes to be. She is open to suggestions. She's open to initiative. She can sustain her engagement. She takes risks all the time. She layers, she manipulates the medium, which is paint and crayons and colored pencils, and just does not stop until she reaches a point where she feels fulfilled. It is unbelievable to watch her work. She works outside of school all of the time. So I'm not sure I have as much influence over you as you have on me. It is impressive to watch. You're an outstanding teacher. I really enjoy our time together. I wish we had more. She'll be transitioning at the end of this year to middle school, so I'm trying to absorb everything I can from her before she moves on so I can pass it on to other learners. You're just an impressive artist, and I'm so proud to know you. I hope that you are equally as proud of yourself and your achievements, and I hope you never stop working. I don't see that in your future, but you're just an outstanding individual, and you are an outstanding artist. So this is for you.
Hi, I'm Dan Zadilla. I'm the art teacher from Farmdale. I'd like to present Olivia. Come on up, Olivia. Olivia's a little shy, I think, but her artwork's excellent, as you can see. So to keep things somewhat local, we looked at images of Charles Demuth, who's probably the most successful artist from Lancaster, and we did precisionism paintings of the school of Farmdale. So you can see her beautiful painting there. And then we went out, after we were done with that, I was like, oh, we need to fill some more space, so I gave Olivia the reference of a map of the Hempfield School District, and I was just like, do something with this, because she had been doing a lot of painting at home. And she came in and she's like, oh, I painted the Farmdale area as a farm, and the wheat stalk represents how we all grow as people and how we all grow up at Farmdale. And it's so beautiful and just really nailed it. So congratulations. And Mr. Plymeyer is not able to be here tonight, so I'm going to be presenting Fadila's art. Come on up. It's a beautiful piece. I'm just going to read your artist statement here. I think that creating art helps me express myself. I enjoy observing others' pieces because it inspires me. This impacts my life because it pushes me to try new art styles or use different methods. So I know that Mr. Plymeyer is disappointed he couldn't be here, but congratulations.
Megan, do you want to come on up? So my name is Amy Smith, and I teach art at Landisville Middle School. And it is my joy to have Megan as my student. My students are very important to me, and Megan is no exception to that. She when I first met her, actually just got her this marking period. In middle school, we only have kids for one marking period. And I was just impressed with her from day one. I was like, oh my goodness. And then realized that she does art all the time after speaking with her. And then you'll notice in the piece that she has displayed on the screen, you see the rough edges of the sketchbook, and that's because Megan is a real artist. She carries her sketchbook with her all the time. She has the one for class, and then she has her own. And so when we look at an artist from the core, it's one of those things that we can't not do. And so, Megan, I'm so proud of you and so grateful to see how you're excelling in art. Her piece, we were exploring like our the other schools in our district about places and spaces and architecture. And so I had students think about a memory from elementary school and then a memory from middle school. And we bonded those together, however the students felt led to do that. And so it's a composite exterior landscape. So Megan, I am happy to present you with this award this evening. So thank you so much for your work.
All right, and speaking of excellent artists, you have an opportunity to visit every art show in the district. We have the dates up here on the screen, and we also have an image over here of all the art shows. You can also find them on our district calendar. So we're hoping that you come to at least one art show, hopefully maybe even more than one. Before we conclude, I again want to congratulate all of you. Thank you for being part of this wonderful show. We do use the gallery year-round to use student work from across the district as well. So anytime you're in here, we're able to sort of showcase our students' excellent work. So we really appreciate having this space to do that. And we appreciate the board allowing us to share this wonderful celebration. And before everyone all of our students leave, we would like to get a picture of all of our students out in the lobby here holding your certificates. So just make sure as you're heading out that you stop in the lobby so we can get those pictures. So thank you again for coming. Okay.
And thank you to all of you for taking the time to come and share your students with us and for you to share their artwork. It's amazing and inspiring, and I think this afternoon I spent the afternoon in the sun on the driveway, drawing chalk with our grandchildren, and it starts from little on up, but to see where they can go here at Hempfield is really exciting, so thanks for all you do.
So thank you to our art staff and our art department as a whole, as well as our students for the impact that you make and you make, vice versa. You do great things, and I do encourage all of you to spread the word about all of the art shows and all the open houses that come up through the spring. It's a great event to go see all the wonderful work that our students are doing. So thank you all. Appreciate Ms. Burns as well. All right, so while our students transition to go get the photo, and again, you're welcome to stay. After the photo is taken, just come on back in. And so as they're transitioning, I'll turn it over to our student council. So, Mr. Albright.
Sure, thanks for having us. I'll get right into it. So in February, we had our dance, and that went really good. I'm sure you guys heard about that at last meeting. And then we had our kindness week through the week of the 16th through the 20th, and that was a national thing that we participated in. And each day we would start our mornings with a little announcement, message from one of the council members, and a little video just reminding everyone to be extra kind this week, and hopefully we can take that and carry it through for the rest of our weeks this year. And I think that's definitely happened. And we ended that week on Friday with a pep rally, a big pep rally that we put together, and it was really fun. We did a bunch of competitions, and Dr. Brossman handed the freshmen the Spirit Sword. So the freshmen are in possession of that right now. Hopefully not for too much longer, but yeah. So that's what we had in February. And looking forward, the rest of the year it slows down a little bit, but we are excited to host a leadership conference here at Hempfield with other student councils from the area. So we're really excited to kind of bounce ideas off them and just talk a little bit to see how we can build from them and make the school even better. So yeah, that's all for now. Thank you.
Any questions for our student council?
I spent my afternoon at the high school in the day of the pep rally, and Mr. Snitzer graciously took me around and at the see the pep rally, and it was really terrific. A lot of school spirit. Students weren't on their cell phones; they were engaged. Mr. Snitzer even showed us his dance moves. He hit the Dougie, so that was a sight to see. But it was great. There was lots of energy in the gym, and I guess I'll celebrate the freshmen winning since my niece is a freshman. So hopefully they can carry that on for a little bit longer.
Anyone else? All right, thank you very much. And again, you are always welcome to stay the duration. We are moving on to approval of the agenda. I did want to add that item 12C, administration has asked us to pull that off. That's the approval of the school calendar for next year. They just have a couple of dates they need to get a little more verification on before we take that to approval. So we'll talk about that in 2 weeks on the 24th. Are there any other deletions or additions to the agenda?
Madam, are you asking
Mr.
for that
Keener.
to be an amendment to remove that, or are we just saying we're not going to do it?
We're saying we're not going to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Any other questions or additions or deletions? All right, so could I have a motion to approve the agenda with that deletion noted?
So
Yep,
moved.
so moved. Thank you, Mr. Keener. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Director Linton. Any other questions? All those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. I don't believe we have any residents tonight. No residents to address the board. And we'll move on then to the superintendent's report.
Great. Thank you and good evening again.
I'm sorry, point of order?
I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
believe we need to approve the minutes. Item 3, Bravo.
Thank you very much. We will move back to 3B and do the approval of the Buildings and Grounds meeting from February 24th and the regular meeting from February 24th. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Best. Second?
Second.
I think I saw this small first. Any questions or comments, discussion? All those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? That motion also carries 9-0. Thank you for that catch, Mr. Keener. Moving now to the superintendent's report.
Great. So as you saw, tonight was Youth Arts Month, so it's great to always celebrate that. I know several of you were able to get to our high school musical this past weekend, which was absolutely phenomenal. So we want to thank our staff and the students who were part of that great performance. It was truly, I had shared with you in board news at our senior preview night, while I didn't count, there were not a lot of open seats for a senior preview night. I would say we had at least 900 members of our community who came out for the final dress rehearsal. It was absolutely wonderful. And during intermission, being able to interact with a lot of our community members, overwhelmingly, all we heard was just, wow, and this is brilliant, and can't believe it's high school. And then at the end, again, Dr. Messer and I were there, we were getting just compliment after compliment, and we just want to extend that to both Jordan, Asher, Alejandro, and Rebecca, and all of the team that was part of that. Truly spectacular. Also coming up, we have parent-teacher conferences. That is starting as we move forward into this week. We have 2 early dismissal days coming up for our elementary students, followed by a full day for all of our staff to be able to meet with parents, whether parents are requesting or teachers are requesting for that conference. So that will be occurring. It's our second round of parent-teacher conferences this year. If there's someone who was not able to schedule, they just simply need to reach out to their child's teacher if they were not able to do that. Not going to go over it, but Ms. Burns also shared all of the open houses, and we'll get all those dates and put that in board news for you in case you wish to attend any of those. We are moving into getting kind of ramped up a little bit as we get into April and May in terms of testing season with the PSSAs, Keystones, AP, all of those pieces, and then quickly you'll have field days and all kinds of fun events for our students coming up towards the end of the school year, which is hard to believe that we're talking about the end of the school year. But before we know it, it will be here. You have the calendar of events listed, as well as the enrollment report for the month of March. And with that, any questions for me?
Yeah, do we have an update on the planning commission meeting or whatever?
We did not make the Planning Commission meeting for March due to some challenges with the traffic study that ELA is working through. I did receive confirmation today that as long as we get the report back from the township's traffic engineer, it is very possible to make the April 8th Planning Commission meeting, which then potentially, if all goes well there, we could make the April 15th supervisors meeting, and then everything still working well, we potentially could go out to bid in that mid-April timeframe, which would take about a 6 weeks window to get things back. The big question is going to be the NPDES permit that goes to the Conservation District. We are waiting for information from them. They've been reviewing all of the land development plans, and assuming all goes well there, and or if we have to provide feedback, everyone's just kind of waiting. I did provide information today that I want more people in the district to be able to get that message so that no one misses it in case someone's out or what have you. But at this point, we're kind of in a waiting period.
So still potentially being able to get started on the baseball fields this summer, but it's getting tight.
It's getting very tight.
Yeah. Okay.
One of the pieces that we just met Monday, and one of the other components that we have to engage in some conversations potentially next week as we start to kind of see where things are falling. One of the very first things that will occur with this project, and we have permission to kind of work in this path, is to connect the PACT directly to the or take it away from the steam plant and all of those pieces. So that's the very first thing that will occur. So that can occur regardless of where we are with the permit. So we do have approval for that. We need the permit to move any dirt whatsoever. And so if we hit that June window where we're not, then we're working on alternative plans because the Hummer who's going to do the fields needs enough time if they're going to do the grass seed. Otherwise, we have to switch to turf. I did just engage in a conversation reminding people that that extra for the turf is not in the budget, and should we have to get there, someone will need to explain to me how that's going to be covered. So I'll keep you updated.
Any other questions? All right. Very briefly, President's Report. I know that most, if not all of us, did get to go to Les Mis, and various performances of it, just beyond astounding all the way around. I can't use enough superlatives for it, so thank you to everybody that was involved. And I know also that many of us got to the opportunity to be guest or mystery readers during Read Across America Week at Mountville. I read in Ms. Bertoli's room, and as I said, I know multiple other board members did the same, and so it's nice to be invited into the classrooms to do that. That was a lot of fun. Continued building visits with Mr. Bermirsky. Got to see the Transitions Beyond the Classroom Cottage, which in all my years teaching here, I had never been inside of that, and that was really a wonderful and eye-opening experience. Ms. Eshelman was along for that visit as well, just to see how Hempfield is really meeting the needs of all of their kids, and that was a really, really special visit. We also toured the LEC as well to see what's happening over there. And yep, I think that's about it. So, yeah, we'll move on to adjunct reports. We'll start with the Lancaster County Career and Technology Center. Mr. Grant or Mr. Best?
Thank you, Madam President. The Joint Operating Committee met on February 26th at Mount Joy. Of note is that Abigail Matos, one of our students who is enrolled in the commercial art program, was recognized as a Brownstown Student of the Month for January. So congratulations to Ms. Matos. The next JOC meeting will be March 26th.
Thank you very much. Field Rec Center, Mr. Wagner or Mr. Williams?
The Hempfield Rec Board met on February 25th. We mainly talked about the capital project, with the conversation centering around parking. As I'm sure everyone knows, parking is a disaster no matter what time you're at the rec. So looking at how we can fix that situation, and taking into consideration stormwater management, distance to entrances, as well as where pedestrians would be walking. And we will have our next meeting on Wednesday, March 25th at 5 p.m.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. And then we have standing committee reports for buildings and grounds. We had only 2 topics on the agenda last 2 weeks ago at that meeting, and though it was a lengthy conversation about playground surfaces, those playgrounds that need to have their surfaces redone, and evaluating what the best choices are for that, taking into account obviously pricing, but accessibility and safety. So that conversation is continuing with some additional research being done, and I believe we'll be revisiting that again in 2 weeks. And then also discussion of the grant, to apply for the grant, which we'll be approving later tonight, hopefully. Next, we have finance. Mr. Wagner.
I will go ahead and pass the mic over to Mr. Best, since I was absent that evening and he was kind enough to facilitate the discussion. So, Best.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yep. So, as noted in the meeting minutes, we went over Mrs. Hall's expenditure review, which was, the next presentation as part of our annual budget. Currently, expenditures are projected to exceed revenues for next year, and so there was some discussion on, what we can do about that, both in the expense side and in the revenue side. We also continue to review the Act 1 index forecast and went over next steps. We'll be looking at the budget update in 2 weeks. We also got some more information about the governor's proposed budget. We'll need to, continue to push our legislators to try and, pass a budget on time this year. And we also discussed the change to the county's tax collection service, which seemed like a pretty straightforward win. No negatives to go into that, or nothing too insurmountable. We also have some contracts up for approval tonight, and I believe that is all we discussed.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is personnel action items. Approval of personnel action item 9A 1 through 8 as presented. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mrs. Eshelman. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Linton. Any questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? That carries 9-0. Next is approval of finance action items B and C. That would be the contracts that Mr. Best referred to and the annual audit report. Is there approval to, or is there a motion to approve finance action items 10B and 10C as presented?
Motion.
Thank you, Ms. Small. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. And then the Public Schools Facility Improvement Grant Resolution. It's a motion to approve the authorized official resolution formally requesting a public school facility improvement grant not to exceed $5 million and designating the superintendent and chief financial and operation officer to execute those documents. Is there a motion to same?
So moved.
Thank you, Director Linton. Is there a second?
Second.
Is it Mr. Keener?
I think it was Mr. Keener.
Mr. Keener. Thank you, Mr. Keener. We'll give you the second on that one. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Moving to policy action items. We have the second reading of board policy, and that would be policy 004, membership, 006, meetings, 217, graduation, 914, relations with the intermediate unit, 917, parental and family involvement, and 918, the Title I, family engagement. These were reviewed and discussed at previous meetings, so this is the second reading. Is there a motion to approve the second reading of those board policies as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Small. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Other action items. Item number 12 on the agenda. Approval of action items B through D, which would be B and D. No, about C. Maybe. I'll get it right. You try to pre-write things, and then that doesn't help you so much. So we're just looking to approve B and D. That is additional contracted transportation staff and the Lancaster, Lebanon, IU13 board representative. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Keener. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Best. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 9-0.
Congratulations, Director Winton.
Thank you.
One of our CTC students, Abigail, is here now, so we want to just back up before we adjourn and give her that recognition.
So as I shared earlier, we had three students that we were recognizing tonight, and we did honor Abigail. Matos was here, and of course I left my paper over there, but I believe you placed first in the pin design, but you're in the commercial art program, is that correct, at the CTC?
Yes.
So on behalf of the district, congratulations on a well-deserved accomplishment. We're very proud of you. Thank you. Would you be able to share just a little bit about what you had to do as part of the pin design?
Okay. So I was given the task to make a state pin design based off Pennsylvania, obviously. So I had to come up with a concept, and I had to go through a series of thumbnails. After that, I made color roughs and then comprehensives. And after that, I went digitally. And I made a final design and presented it to two, judges at the competition. I competed against 4 other people from different districts, represented our schools, and I won first in that. So that's basically all I really did. It's not really much work.
That's outstanding. And we now know you're going to go on to the state championships and compete there at the state level. And Mr. Keener and Mr. Best also are part of the Joint Operating Commission for the CTC. And we also, Mr. Keener shared that you were selected as one of the Students of the Month recently.
Yeah.
So congratulations. You did an outstanding job. We're very proud of you. Well done.
One thing I want to add about that, I'd shared this in a previous month, but some of you may not have known. This Skills USA competition wasn't just for our CTC, it was multiple. So this is like 3 or more counties in Pennsylvania that this competition was for, right? So just adds to the prestige of how amazing our students are who actually placed.
All right, with that, I believe we'll be adjourning the meeting to an executive session for legal and contractual matters following the ed personnel policy and legal meeting. So we'll do that one next, and then we will have an executive session following that. Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Is there a second?
Second.
I was looking at Director Linton. Second, Director Linton. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. We will adjourn for, do we need a break or do we want to push through?
Let's go, because there's lots of people here to present.
All right, let's push through. We'll do some seat switcheroos and.
All right, we'll call to order the Education and Programs Committee meeting. There were no residents' requests to address the board, so I'll turn it over to Dr. Dandridge, a bunch of people that are here tonight.
With your permission, Mrs. Eshelman, we're going to switch the order just a little bit because we're waiting for a couple more staff members. So I am going to have Dr. Goodrich here speak about the Lancaster County Academy first. We'll present on that. And then she's also available for any questions on the Chapter 339 slides that we shared with you this weekend as well. And then we'll transition to the Science and Social Studies presentations.
So, yeah, skipping A, B, and C and going to D and E. Sounds good.
Okay. Lancaster County Academy is a program, it actually has two campuses. One is located at Park City. If you walk right through the food court, it's located in the back, and there's actually a campus in Mount Joy as well. As we were looking to revise the graduation policy, this was one of the programs that we were hoping it would open opportunities up for our students. So here's just a few notes on the program. It's focused around assisting non-traditional learners earn their high school diploma. And so these are students that potentially have special circumstances that have made it difficult for them to attend the traditional schedule of high school and also earn the number of credits. And that can be a whole host of special circumstances that would have students be in that situation. So the program accepts students ages 16 to 21. They have to be finished by 21. And they really like the students to have a minimum of 10 credits coming in just because it would take so long for them to get to the level that they need for graduation. However, we did a tour recently and they did share that they are very flexible and they will work with students depending on their unique situation if they haven't quite met that 10 threshold. It is a very small environment. Students are getting one-on-one and small group instruction from certified teachers in whatever areas they need to earn credits in order to make graduation requirements. And it really is a combination of independent work, hands-on experience, internship hours, so that they are becoming well-rounded as they're earning those credits. In addition to the credits that they need for graduation, they are also required to either complete 100 internship hours through a job or 55 hours of community service. During their instructional times, they are required to put in 16 hours weekly, so it runs Monday through Thursday, 4 hours each day. If a student misses a day, they are required to come in on Fridays to make up that time. They track attendance just like we do here as well and go through the same attendance procedures. So again, there are so many different circumstances that could lead to a student needing a program like this to recoup those credits. But some of the potential things that we would be looking for as we're making decisions about students that would be good candidates are listed here. So their age, their GPA, what is their attendance history, how many credits have they earned so far, how many semesters have they been at Hempfield High School in order to try to earn credits? What are those documented educational barriers, and what are those environmental or situational situations that have really interfered with their ability to complete traditional graduation requirements? Just some data to take a look at, and the hope would be that if we have an opportunity like this for students who are a good fit for the program, we would start to see the dropout rates decrease. So this is just some historical data on how many students have dropped out prior to graduation over the past 5 years. In terms of the requirements for graduation, what you're seeing here are our current graduation requirements for Hempfield High School at 28 credits, and then Lancaster County Academy. So their program right now is at 21 credits for graduation, but again, they are very flexible and they're working with districts to get closer to the number of credits that the district is seeking for their students for graduation. And so what they gave me as a proposal was 25 credits. They also have options for 24 credits, so that's something that we could explore if we decided to move forward with an agreement. So you'll see the core areas. Lancaster County Academy is still setting high expectations in terms of what is required in terms of core content. The biggest difference are the number of electives. We build in 8 credits of electives, and they have those electives there. However, 1 to 2 of them are part of that service learning or career internship, and so there's some wiggle room there in terms of it's not all classroom based. They are earning credits based on those 100 hours that they are getting through their work experience. In terms of costs, what you're seeing here is the way that they run their agreements is it's a 3-year agreement, and so up front they show you what the increase would be each year. And so this is based on 25 credits and the increase that happens each year, and you buy a seat. So you're not necessarily buying a placement for a student that costs $32,000. You are buying a seat, and as soon as a student who occupies that seat graduates, we are able to fill that seat again, and you're not charged again. You pay for the seat yearly. So there's different options. You can do 5 seats, 10 seats, or 15 seats. If you purchase 15 seats, you pay for 14 and you get 1 free. Other districts our size, districts like Penn Manor, they sit at about 15 seats because of their sheer size and the number of students that need those. And and I know it says on there 10 seats, but when we did the tour sheet clarified that at 5 seats, we would get a member on their board, which gives us a voice in decision-making in terms of programming. Yes?
I like that piece of it. To be clear though, is their board the same as this board? Is it the final authority on what's going on, or is it sort of like more like a PTO type of thing where they make recommendations? Or is it truly the governing body of the organization?
It's my understanding, Mr. Keener, it operates like the CTC JOC.
Okay.
It's in that same
So
venue.
it is,
So
okay.
it would
It
be, it's up to the board as to who would be the representative that would represent Hempfield on their
But
board.
it is the governing body for LCA. It's not
That's-
just some sort of advisory thing.
There's a superintendent appointed as well, record as well, so
Yep.
it's very similar.
It operates similarly to the JOC,
Okay,
is how it
thank
was
you.
explained to us.
Thank you.
And just some comparison to cyber tuition, because sometimes when students are finding themselves at that place where they're not feeling like they're going to make graduation, they will withdraw and go into cyber education, which is something we still pay for. That comparison up there, right now on average, we're paying over $14,000 per student for a year for cyber education. If the student has any special education needs, that price is more. And in the 24-25 school year, you see there we spent over 1.8 million on cyber education. And when I put this presentation together, which was 2 months ago, we had already spent close to $1 million, and we are on track to be back up at that 1.8, close to 1.9 million in cyber. So that would be another programmatic option that potentially could lower some costs for us, for students who are a good fit for this type of program. So here's just a list of some pros and cons in terms of, entering into an agreement for a program like this. Obviously, we're looking to potentially reduce dropout rates by offering an alternative pathway for students who struggle in the traditional setting. We're looking for it to decrease the number of withdrawals that we have to cyber charter schools and keeping students enrolled in our district, because students in these programs, they go to LCA, but it's almost like a dual enrollment. They still receive a Hempfield diploma when they are finished with their program. It also will eliminate barriers for students who have some environmental factors needing, family obligations, needing to have more time during the day to hold down a full-time job. So it just provides some more flexibility for students with those barriers. It's an opportunity that we don't currently have. We don't have anything similar to this that we're able to offer students when they get to the point where they're not feeling like they're going to be able to traditionally graduate. It offers flexibility for students with transient backgrounds who have maybe been through multiple different types of high schools with different credit requirements and leaving mid-course, and they've not been able to get the credits that they need. There's it provides in-person instruction, which is a nice option for students who aren't able to work fully online, which right now is the only option for students that would withdraw from our traditional setting. There's potential cost savings for students who students who enroll in LCA rather than the cyber charter school. It supports our district goals related to graduation rates and student engagement. And it also demonstrates a commitment to meeting diverse student needs through multiple pathways to graduation. There are some potential cons. There is uncertainty in terms of participation levels because it isn't something that we've done for years. We did years ago send students, but we haven't in a while. So it's difficult to predict exactly how many students would be the right type of student for this setting. And so we're not sure if it's going to fully impact that dropout rate. There's also uncertainty with the cyber enrollment because not all students withdraw to go to cyber because they're unable to meet their credit requirements in person. So that would be something that we'd be looking for those potential cost savings, but can't fully be predicted. And that leads into the next one with no guarantee of overall budgetary savings. There's a potential to underutilize purchase seats if we don't get as many students as we budget for, and those seats are already pre-purchased, and we're signing a 3-year agreement. So there is potential there if we would buy too many seats right off the bat. There is an option though to purchase more seats. So if we would find that we went with the lowest number and filled all of those and needed more, they would work with us on our agreement. It requires ongoing monitoring and evaluation to determine the effectiveness and fiscal impact. It may create a perception of unequal access to, depending on our seat availability, and if it is something that there are a lot of students that are good candidates for it. And then there's just logistical considerations, transportation, scheduling, and coordination, which could just add some complexity to the implementation. Any questions?
First of all, I think this is a good option. I know there's a lot of other local districts that participate in this. I do think you will help your dropout rate. My second comment or question, I guess, would be, if you have too many students, no matter what level we purchase, how are you going to determine which ones receive those seats? For example, if we purchased 10 or 15 and we had 20 that were interested, is there a process, or do we have to develop one?
So there will be a process which we are working on developing. As part of the graduation policy, we said that we would create a student services team. And that team will put together a referral that would be completed by high school principals and counselors to refer a student to the program. And then we would be going through all of those criteria pieces, looking at are they motivated and independent? Are they going to be able to finish the program, within a couple years, and it's not going to be that they're there forever? So we would look at all of that criteria, and then we would actually make a recommendation to the superintendent to have that final look at, is this student truly a good candidate? Now, if for some reason we would have so many students that would exceed that 15 or 20, we would have to look at, does it make sense for us financially to purchase more seats? Right now, I think that they were sitting at about 68% in terms of their enrollment and how many students they're able to have. So that would be another piece that we would have to look at if other districts would start purchasing more seats as well, if they would get to capacity.
And then beyond our 2 levels of review, a student still has to go to LCA for assessments and a review as well. So there's multiple levels to kind of really discern, is this student the right type of student for this program?
Dr. Goodrich, could you share just some of the transportation considerations, like other districts, how do they handle that?
Yes, so some districts provide bus transportation. If you utilize the Park City campus, that runs right on Red Rose, so that's another option as well. Some districts purchase a bus pass for students. As part of that work component, a lot of students get jobs right in the mall. And so we could provide transportation in the morning, bus transportation, and try to piggyback it on another run, like a CTC run or something like that. And then the students would get themselves home in the afternoon or in the evening after they've worked their shift. But I think that it would be smart to be flexible with whatever that student's situation is. We provide the bus transportation if that's what they need, or we provide the bus pass so that we're helping to reduce barriers.
One more question. Would the students get a Hempfield diploma? So unlike Cyber Charter, where they're getting some Cyber Charter diploma, they're getting a real Hempfield degree.
Yes,
Okay.
they are. And they get one from LCA as well, and so they are invited to both ceremonies.
So just like the CTC again?
Yes.
Okay. That could be a really good marketing piece, because I would like to think that our degree carries more cachet than one from a Cyber Charter school. So I think that could.
And we were able, when we toured, 2 students spoke to us about their experience there, and I believe they were both juniors, and they were both very excited to have kind of like dual diplomas from both entities, because they were very proud of whether it was the work they did and the social life and friends they had at it's not like, how do you say that, like dual enrollment.
Yeah, and they're still very
Sending-
connected, like they're still going to prom and, they're still participating and they have friends, but they both spoke so highly of first being appreciative of the opportunity that their district gave them, but also like saying we wouldn't have made it. Like they had sophomore years that just tanked and they would have dropped out. They would not have made it to graduation.
And to your point, Mr. Keener, one of the students that spoke with us that day shared that he actually was very set on a cyber option for himself and was kind of disappointed when that wasn't, he kind of not forced into LCA, but like that was the choice that was made. And he said to us how very glad he was because he recognizes now that he got a much better education and he feels way more prepared to graduate now than he would have had he continued in any kind of online option.
Thank you, Director Lynn. That's helpful to know. Are you looking for a motion tonight, or, what are the next steps?
Well, next steps would be at the next meeting on the 24th for an approval. I also have uploaded the agreement, so if that would go through, getting that agreement signed so that we could even start this year.
Yep. So the agreement, the contract for this will be on the March 24th. board meeting. Know that we were presenting it here. What doesn't typically, it's not our typical process of going through Building and Grounds and Finance Committee meeting first before it goes on, but because we were presenting it here. And so we'll have that contract for you for approval on the 24th so that we can start it. And the other part of it is it starts based on when we sign the contract. So we could have kids starting now, and then we would just be renewing on an annual basis in the March, April timeframe.
No concerns, but I do have a question about the credits.
Sure.
The 28 credits for Hempfield, I've had my concerns with that, and I'll leave that alone. But the 25 credits, you mentioned 24. Is there an option to do that, and what is the standard when it comes to that? Would there be any reason why we wouldn't consider 24, which is a standard across many districts for graduation? Why are we at 25, I guess? And I'm not being unkind, I just
No,
want to understand.
that's fine. When we first started talking about this as a potential option, we were trying to get as close to our 28 as possible. And so when I reached out for information, I asked her if she could put the information together for 25. After we saw it and we saw that other districts are also at 24, I went back to her and said, we think that we would want to do 24. She just didn't have enough time to put everything together on our timeline for today's meeting, but it's definitely an option that we could go for it, and if that's what's approved.
For what it's worth, I think the 24 is where I would recommend you go. But that's up to you in the end.
No, that will be where we're going. And part of the reason we have not been able to do this for a while is because LCA for many years was only able to get to 21 credits. That's a bigger jump when we're at 28. And so when we were talking through this, they were willing to work with us to try and find a solution. We weren't aware that they got to 24, they just jumped for us to 25. So knowing they can do 24, we had the conversation after our visit and said, let's get that information. But we wanted to present this tonight with what we had originally talked about, knowing that we can come back with 24.
Thank you.
Do you know where that less credit would come from if we did 24?
She hasn't sent that to me yet, so I'm not honestly sure. It's
probably the elective.
It's probably an elective, yeah.
And would students be able to earn more if they wanted to? Because I know it's sort of more self-paced. If they started getting on track and wanted to gain more?
So we had asked, as part of the agreement, can you have someone who's on a 21 track if maybe their circumstances put them at a place where it's going to be hard for them to graduate, and then have others on another track? They don't really do that mixed because they're giving you like a fixed cost for those credits.
That makes sense. Yep.
I like this makes sense to me. There's a number of pieces of this that I think would be really good, and it's a great option. What confidence level do you have, and I realize that you're guessing, what confidence level do you have that we will see enrollment in LCA? Right? I mean, just from a business standpoint, it's like, and listen, it makes all the sense in the world, but typically you usually make a decision based on knowledge of the need being there.
Sure.
Instead of rolling it limits you rolling the dice, right? You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, as of right now, I already have 3 students that I think will finish out the year there if we get approval for this. There's a student who is 18 who has been checking in with his grade level principal on a weekly basis to say, are you going to be able to get me there? Are you going to be able to get me there? Because he is motivated knowing that as a sophomore and at age 18, he's not going to make it. Yeah. So that's not necessarily a cost savings, but it's a dropout savings. Yeah. We also had a student move in from another district, and that district had already put in motion getting him to that program, and then when they moved to Hempfield, we didn't have it as an option, and so that student is really struggling, but still highly motivated to get there. So again, in terms of being able to say, is it saving us cyber tuition money? I can't say 100%, but dropout rates definitely.
Yeah. And enrollment was never a concern for the district, and in the previous time we were with them, we parted ways for some other reasons at that time, but enrollment is never an issue.
Are you willing to share what those other reasons were?
I think we just had some questions about rigor and some of the programming, and we were doing some creative things back here with LEC and some of the things that we were doing. So I would say that was probably more of anything, but it was certainly not enrollment.
Yeah. Understood. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it makes all the sense in the world. I just want to make sure that we're also putting our best foot forward, right?
Mm-hmm. So, one of the other while there could have been more on the cyber legislation, one of the pieces we're under right now is the residency verification. So any student who's in cyber programming has to provide residency verification November 1st and March 1st. So we're in that go-around. So as families are providing, school districts then find that no students are no longer in our attendance area. Therefore, we don't have to pay that cyber bill. So we're also kind of working simultaneously. So while the cost for this would come out of our tuition line item in the budget, as we're working through residency verification, we could also see some savings helping to offset the cost here. So we will bring forward the contract and approval at the March 24th meeting, and thank you for supporting this.
Yeah, thank you.
So Dr. Goodrich is also here to answer any questions if you have them on Chapter 339, our guidance plan. As you saw in my notes, that is due to the state by the end of March. Our plan will cover from 26 to 29. My understanding, Dr. Goodrich, we don't submit the actual plan. We actually just attest that elements of the plan, the required elements of the plan are in it, and then it's a living, breathing document that can be changed and modified throughout the course of those 3 years to be responsive to the district. Dr. Goodrich has been working with a task force to update that plan. I know some of you have been involved with that. You did get some basic information this weekend, so if there was any further questions that you had on that, please ask Dr. Goodrich now.
My only question was, do we have to do a formal vote, though, on the 24th, so you're able to submit it?
Yes, and so the advisory council met yesterday. I'm working on making a few edits from that. I'm hoping by tonight or first thing tomorrow morning to have the entire document so that TAB can get it in board docs.
It'll be in board news.
So that you have like two weeks to review it before we come back to a vote.
I have a question. Can you just share briefly how personal and social development are incorporated in the guidance plan?
Sure. So this plan is specifically geared towards career readiness. That's the Chapter 339. However, after our meeting yesterday, we have now integrated all of the second step curriculum because even though that's not necessarily completely tied to the career and work standards, those are important skills that will lead to success in those standards. And so today I actually went through and added all of that into the curriculum action plan, and that will be part of it as well. So that's social emotional section.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, thank you. Well,
Thanks.
now we get to...
Great, thank you, Dr. Goodrich. So the next presentation we have is, as you know, we have been working hard for a couple years now on the new science STEELS standards that the Pennsylvania has adopted. So we have a team of both elementary and secondary teachers here to answer some questions. I shared with you two presentations this weekend that gave a lot of feedback from our staff, some who were able to be here this evening, some who were not, on how implementation has been going in their classroom. There's lots of pictures, there's lots of feedback for you. But the team's going to come up here and is also available for questions and to share about their experiences over the first year of full implementation with the STEEL standards. And I'll let them introduce themselves when they get to the table here. Yeah, bring them on.
It's all connected.
So I'm sorry, Dr. Daniels, this is an integrated presentation with 3A and 3B.
You got it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to introduce the team here, and then I'm not going to talk tonight. I'm going to turn it over to them. My secondary team has been doing a phenomenal job of implementing these standards. They are writing everything themselves from scratch. So they are using their content and their pedagogy to build this program. They have been working hard on creating new hands-on labs that implement this shifts in teaching that we've been talking about with this. So I have with me here first, I have Mrs. Katie Miller. She is our secondary science coordinator, and she teaches biology, AP Bio, and also general science. And then with her is Dr. Tiffany Lewis, who also teaches biology and general science as well, right? General science. And then they brought 2 students with us who are both 10th graders so that you could hear a student perspective as well. So we have Lila Ross and Gianna White as well, so they can share how it feels from a 10th grade perspective.
I think it's important to note just really quickly how much the standards have changed. So when we look at the legacy standards for science, they were very content heavy and very vocabulary driven. And so it became very hard within the semester or the year to get everything in that the standards required. It was a lot of vocabulary, a lot of content, and there was a lot of repetition that was needed to make that stick with the students. We did labs, but they were cookbook labs, so they really were verification of what the teacher had already told them. It really was a way to get the content out. It was the teacher who was disseminating information, and the students were really passive learners. When we look at how the STEEL standards are changed, there is a significant decrease, not so much in the biological concepts, but the detail that they need to know for them and the vocabulary that is required that they know. And so that's not necessarily a bad thing. What they're kind of implementing in place of some of the content is science and engineering practices. So it's no longer about regurgitating information. It's really about doing what scientists are doing and how to think like a scientist. And how the instruction changes, the instruction needs to change a lot to teach kids how to think because they're so programmed to memorize information and regurgitate that information. And while we tried to put application in, the old legacy standards were so content driven that it really became hard to make those applications. When we look at the STEEL standards, we really focus more on the big biological concepts and scientific concepts so they get a better understanding of what's happening in the real world. An example that comes to mind is when students had to learn about osmosis. In the old standards, osmosis is just talking about, at a very simplistic level, the movement of water from high concentration to low concentration and towards a higher solute concentration, so wherever it's saltier or where there's more sugar. And they actually use this quite a bit in their daily life. But in the old standards, they also had to know the terms hypertonic, hypotonic, isotonic. And whether we were talking about plant or animal cells, they had to understand the distinction between plasmolysis and crenation. And it sounds like a word salad. And for students who are trying to understand the biological concepts and the vocabulary, that becomes a very daunting task for them. If we look at it from the STEEL's perspective, how that shifts is that they're given a real world situation. So let's take a saltwater fish and let's put it in a freshwater tank. Well, what happens? It's gonna die. Why does it die? Well, that has to go back to osmosis. And it's really about the movement of water. So the salt water is hypertonic, there's more solute. And the freshwater fish is, the cells don't have as much solute, so the water moves out, it dehydrates and it dies. But from that basic observation, they can get a big understanding of that concept of osmosis. And so we've done a lot. We rolled out the STEEL standards first in middle school. And so in the slideshow that I had presented to you, we focused on how kids are doing science in the classroom now. We did science before, but they weren't really thinking like scientists. Now they're thinking like scientists. They're being presented with information, with data, where they're analyzing and interpreting, and they have to come up with an explanation for that. And so they're now doing a lot of modeling. The science and engineering practices as part of the new standards is focusing on what scientists do. Are they analyzing and interpreting data? Are they making models and analyzing the models? And so engaging in argument from evidence is another piece to that. And so they're using the information that they have created when making their models and in doing lab experiments to really show that they have an understanding of that. We also did some work with the scale, proportion, and quantity. So in addition to science and engineering practices, there's also cross-cutting concepts. And cross-cutting concepts are those major themes in biology. So in all science, structure, function. So looking at the atomic level, what's the structure of the atom and how does that lead to that property? And taking that all the way up to putting those atoms together to make molecules, and how does that function in living organisms? And at the chemical level, how does that apply? But understanding the scale and proportion, most kids don't have an idea of what an atom truly looks like because it's so tiny, you can't see it. And so they are utilizing skills like mathematical computations to get a better understanding of the scale and size. So we have students that are at the middle school level in our science, they're making models with themselves. So one student's the sun and one student's a planet, and they talk about the orbitals that have to go around, and they've done the math to support the scale. Okay, well, here's what it looks like in a textbook. here's what it looks like here where we are, and then how does that translate to what it looks like in the atmosphere. One of the other things that they're doing is that students are really driving the instruction. And they're doing that because as teachers, we've done the cognitive work ahead of time to lay out phenomena, things that are interesting. You know, why does the freshwater fish die when you put it in salt water or vice versa? Well, now we have to think about that, and students are asked to generate questions. At the beginning of the units, they're asked to generate driving question boards. So what are they curious about? We've just presented this information. And those questions that they come up with are used to drive the lesson. We talk about scientific questions versus unscientific questions, and how a scientific question is open and they can be investigated and explored. And so they come up with these questions and they put them on the board, and we analyze their questions, and we have them look at what are the good scientific questions that we're going to answer, and then that drives the unit. And it's amazing the questions they come up with. It's so cool to see their brains working, and it's just amazing what they can generate for us. And then we also give them the opportunity. So a lot of times in science, there was a skills unit where you learned to measure, and then you moved on to other content. Now all of that is integrated, as it should be. So as you're collecting data, you're using those measurement skills, and so on. So that's what we've done in chemistry. And then I'm going to let Dr. Lewis speak a little bit about the biology, so I'm not talking the whole time. But
well, you kind of stole everything I was going to say, so there you are. But so I think what is really the big difference here with this content, and actually what I've been really excited that we've taken on here at Hempfield, because this is only my third year here at Hempfield, and prior to that I worked for Penn State University at the Center for Science in the Schools in the College of Education, and we were really focused on what are scientists and engineers actually doing, because we worked with scientists and engineers to help them work on their grants, and then we would do teacher programming with them based on their work. So I really got to understand how does science actually work, and I knew that the way that classroom science was happening is not the way that science works in the real world, and we were not preparing our students to be able to enter those fields. So really positioning this phenomenon at the start of a unit, having the students ask questions, really think about, okay, what's going on here, and not be so worried about the content and the words and the vocabulary and all that stuff. It kind of pushes the barriers that a lot of the students have away, and they can just ask questions and start thinking about things in the real world. So having the students really look at the phenomenon, try to unpack that phenomenon over the unit, that's when the content delivery takes place. So as they start asking new questions and finding out new information, we can attach a concept to the things that they're just talking about with each other, and then they're able to now use their understanding of the content plus whatever vocabulary they're supposed to be learning, and then explain what's happening to talk about the phenomenon. So that has been really a good thing for me, because coming back into the classroom after being away I was gone for 4 years. So I was a teacher for 7 years before that, gone for 4 years. Coming back, I was like, oof, the way we are teaching right now is not working anymore. So it's been really a breath of fresh air, really, this year to see how this curriculum is working so much better for the students and helping them understand content. And Lila's actually going to talk about a little bit about the storylines that we've been working with. So there's a story or a phenomenon that the students are introduced to at the beginning of the unit, and then we kind of unpack that story. So having a story as well to apply the learning to, I think that's made a huge difference for the students, for sure. Should I have Lila say her piece? Because I think it'll be perfect right now.
I think that's
okay. Okay, so this is Lila Ross. She was a student in my college prep biology class for 10th graders last semester. So she's going to talk a little bit about her experience really quickly.
Okay. From a student's perspective, the storyline helped me figure out what I was learning about instead of having it like she said, right out of a book or just taking constant notes. I also found that when we had a storyline, it helped me stay on track, and it helped me it was a lot better than just learning out of notes. I have an example for that. We did a gel electrics lab, and that's right there. We were figuring out different relatedness between different lion populations, and I actually got to load the DNA and figure out and look at the DNA bands and figure out the different DNA relationships between the lion populations. This is different from my previous year in 9th grade general science, where the content was telling me telling me what to learn about, and it wasn't actually applying the storyline does, and it helped me go back to that. It helped me follow the content as well as the storyline. It helped me follow it, and like especially when it came to tests and quizzes, like if I was confused on like a question, I could think back to the storyline and it would help me like answer the questions accurately.
Oh my gosh, you're going to be so excited with what they're doing in elementary science because what you didn't get, they're getting now, like the phenomenon that's like happening there. I'm just so excited. Like you guys will be so excited. The secondary teachers, this is awesome.
It was definitely a huge change from like my 9th grade year coming to biology. I thought I was going to do horrible since my previous year. And it was just like a breath of fresh air having like the storyline and being able to like follow something. And
Like when someone says like, I'm not a good science student. No,
yeah,
it's
and
not, you're not a
I
good
thought I
science
wasn't
student.
until
No, you are.
biology actually. So.
I love hearing that, and I love that you're able to take the context in which you learned it and apply it to something else when a new question comes up. So that's really valuable.
I think that piece that you said about context is huge because so often in science we learn about isolated topics and they're not seeing the overall big connection. So that was, I think, one of the biggest points for context. I'm going to let Gianna White speak. She was in my honors biology class this fall.
Good evening, everyone. So I had Mrs. Miller for 10th grade honors biology this year, and I remember when I was a freshman thinking about like bio next year, and I was very nervous. I wasn't excited for it at all because I'm a very tactile learner, and science for me has been like you sit at a desk and you just get like talked at, which is like some people can learn that way, but I really like to be able to do things myself. That's how like my brain like processes things. So I learned like that the best. And I remember coming to bio and I just like loved it. And we, like the things that we do in class genuinely helped me learn so much. Like we would, every single day, we would get like instructions and we would work collaboratively with like with each other. And when we would begin a unit, we'd be presented with a phenomenon, like a storyline. And it was almost like a mystery. Like we're given a scenario and we're given a question and we have to use like context and what we're learning in class to kind of figure that out. So it's not just like a textbook kind of way. It's like you're really like applying yourself. You really have to think about stuff and understand stuff and ask questions. And when I felt like because we were put in groups for stuff, we would be told like, oh, like did you talk with your group? And I feel like that's very helpful because like you have questions, you have all of these other minds, and you guys are learning the same thing. So you get to like figure stuff out together, which I think that one opinion is like not as good as a lot of them. And also, like we would do activities in class, like active recall, like to study for stuff, or even just when we were learning stuff, like the teacher would ask us questions and it wasn't like a raise your hand and answer, it was like a call out your answer. And then if you get it wrong, like you're gonna remember it because you got it wrong in front of everyone. But I especially loved doing that. So yeah, biology was really fun for me this year. I honestly bring up bio in like everything. I've never been like a science person, but I really like appreciate being able to understand how things work, and I feel like applying myself in the way that we did this year with the new curriculum just really like benefited me in my learning style. So I'm really grateful for the new curriculum.
One other thing I wanted to share is part of the STEEL standards, it really has a focus on human impact. The previous standards did not. And so it was interesting, I surveyed my fall classes, it was 41 students that took the survey, and I just asked them, like, how do you think your understanding of how human impact in the environment has changed? And 100% of them said that they felt that they had a better understanding of how humans impact their environment and how that can affect ecosystems and ecosystem stability. We weren't just talking about populations, we're talking about poaching and how poaching can affect populations and what the ecological ramifications are of that. We looked at how burning of fossil fuels and things like that changes the pH of the ocean. Well, how does the pH of the ocean affect the stability of the ecosystem there? And so what I think what really came out of it is kids were not making just understanding of isolated concepts, they were tying it all together. They're looking at, okay, you know, we're looking at a plant and looking at how does water, so structure, function, like what structures of the plant are allowing it to function in that way. We're looking at modeling, and so they're drawing this and they're showing where things are moving in the plant. And so I just think that it's really cool to see them make those connections, and they can connect, you know, cellular respiration and mitosis and photosynthesis all together when they're talking about plants, which is fantastic. We did provide some other feedback from students that was in there. I highlighted some things in red that I thought might be valuable, that just kind of spoke to me in terms of, it's just amazing when you hear from the students and what they have to say. So I'll leave those there for you to look at.
I just want to say, my youngest is just finished honors biology last semester, and it created lots of good opportunities for us to have conversation, having this storyline. He could get in the car after school and I would say, hey, what about those lions, that you're learning about? And so kind of gave me an in to be able to discuss with him, and as opposed to my older two children who went through it and weren't nearly so excited about biology. So.
Oh my gosh.
What I noticed in reading through all of the student feedback, right, thank you for including so much. It was good because there's a theme, right? And hearing you up here this evening, thank you for sharing with us, by the way. There's a theme, and it's engagement, right? Like, it's just increasing engagement totally overall, not only what I'm hearing tonight at the student level, but also for our educators. You seem very excited about your jobs in a way that you maybe weren't before, if I'm catching that a little bit. I do have a question for you at the secondary level, because it's different from our curriculum at the elementary level, right? So what are we seeing when it comes to assessment time? Like, test scores are not everything, we know that. I'm not talking about scores per se, but like when it comes to assessment after implementing this way of learning, what are we seeing? How do we know it's landing? Other than testimony saying, I'd like science more, this is great, I feel like I understand, how can we tell?
So I think it's interesting. Actually, the first exam that they took, it was kind of, we didn't know what to expect, right? Because it's the first time that we're assessing students this way. And I think one of the biggest components is that they now have to provide evidence and reasoning for most of their responses that they have in terms of the written response. And so I was blown away by how well our kids, in the class we're like, okay, well, if that's what you think, back it up. What evidence do you have to back it up? And it really forced them to think through their answers. And so I found it refreshing that they were able to provide so much. Now, we gave them data, and we gave them diagrams, and they were able to interpret those diagrams really well and make connections really well. So as far as the assessments that we're giving them, they are doing very well on making those connections. And we treat it like, okay, well, this is the first exam, this is what we're expecting, and then we build on that throughout the semester as they're building on their skills. So we expect a little bit more as we progress through the course. But I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but.
No, I was seeing the same thing, actually. I was very, what's the right word to say? Just kind of sad and disappointed a lot of times when I graded tests, because there were like a few A's and then like many C's and things, because it was just really a lot of recall in the way that the tests are written, because it was, for the old standards. So now we're really focused more on like the science and engineering practices and the processes and using the data as evidence to back it up. And like Katie said, like the students are really drawing on that and leaning into that a lot more. It took a while at first, but they got a lot better at being able to use the data, like pick things out from data sets, understand what was going on, notice things. And I think that really helped them in the understanding. And plus too, the assessments were, like the content was in context again. So, we presented the assessment with content and context, so they drew from the context and then applied the content to that context. So I think that just really makes a huge difference, honestly. So now, my test scores, I'm like really excited when I grade. I'm like, yay, there's some A's and B's, and like you're really making good points in your answers. So yeah, it's been very refreshing for sure. So I don't know about the Keystone, but they're doing pretty great in their assessments in class. So we'll see it when the Keystone comes out.
Well, and that's what I wanted to jump in and talk about, because at the 8th grade level last year, we were able to pilot the new test. The whole state made that choice, and as well at the 5th grade level, 5th grade, 5th and 8th last year, and it didn't count. It gave us a chance to try it. That didn't happen at the high school level. Because the Keystone is part of a graduation requirement, the state requires us to maintain that test through this whole process. And then they threw a curveball at us last year and said, well, this current year, we're going to give the old test in January and the new test in May. So we're struggling with some of those transitions, but this team has been phenomenal. And we feel very confident that with the increased student engagement, that our students are going to perform well on that, on both the old test and the new test. But unfortunately, the state is still, we're still being judged by a multiple choice test, despite the fact that they're doing all of this incredible work. So the science teachers have also been leaders in our district in leveraging AI as a way to analyze our materials. Katie and one of our chemistry teachers in particular have put together some, they're called GEMS in AI, and we'll talk more about that in May. A little teaser there for an exciting presentation in May. But what they'll do is they will ask AI, give all the standards, all the information that they need, and then say, okay, what would be a multiple choice question that would have in it the cross-cutting concepts, the science and engineering practices, and the core disciplinary ideas, and then it will highlight each of those in the question, and it gives the teachers a framework to go with. They're not necessarily taking those questions in that same way, but this has been really hard work. And they're using it as a way to say, okay, I'm going to take that question and now I can adjust it and tweak it to our needs. So they have been amazing. Now, we've done all this work in grades 7, 8, and 10, and now we need to fill in that gap in 9 because that will feed into this, as well as continue working our chemistry and physics classes at the high school, because now the kids are coming from this incredible experience, and we want to make sure that as they continue, they are having those same experiences. So we started with our tested our tested grades, and now we have to fill in each direction. So the curriculum work continues, and it's just an amazing team.
Thank you.
Thank you. And like I said, the connection is going to be great, so you guys are up.
So everything that you're heard about, we're starting at kindergarten and working our way on up. So I have Mrs. Hillary Buckwalter with me tonight. She's a first grade teacher at East Petersburg Elementary, and Mr. Aaron Buckwalter, he's a sixth grade teacher at Landisville Intermediate, and he's also our elementary science coordinator. So I'm going to let them start off by giving you kind of the primary version and the intermediate version of the elementary program.
Okay, so I know you probably saw some of the pictures in the slideshow that you got. One of the things that I love the most about this new curriculum is how hands-on it is. One of the things that sticks out to me is we have to teach plant parts and what all of the parts of a plant do. So when I'm looking through the manual, I'm seeing all these instructions about cutting up paper towels and straws, and I just had no idea where we were going with this. But we made a model of a plant and then put blue water in it to see that the roots are bringing up the nutrients from the soil into the leaves. And just to watch the kids, instead of saying here's a plant, these are the parts, let's remember this, we'll sing a song or whatever. They saw it happen, so they believe it, they remember it. And that was back in the fall. I had 2 students in my room who have very, very limited English, but they were able to participate in this, and when it came time to draw the model of what they had seen, they were able to do that and have as much success as any of their peers because they were really watching it happen and participating in a hands-on way, and it removed a lot of barriers for them. And I'd also like to say I have a great student teacher with me right now. We're teaching science, and this curriculum is accessible enough that together she's having a lot of success as a brand new teacher, being able to implement a lot of these lessons without a lot of support from me. She's putting things together, and the kids are learning now about light and shadows, and they just modeled a mountain today. And I mean, they're using mirrors to help the town, which is really real. It's down in Norway that they're using mirrors to get sunlight into their town. So we're also learning some geography, and the kids, we get a lot out of our half hour. We have a half an hour in first grade for science, so we have to make it count, and I feel like every day we do. There aren't really any lessons that don't have an impact. Yeah.
Yeah, hearing that and just seeing all the feedback that came in from the elementary school teachers was really gratifying for Jason and I, because when we were looking for curriculums, we knew we were dealing with a limited time frame in elementary school. we were dealing with, teachers that teach, science, social studies, they teach everything. So we wanted something that was accessible to teachers and they felt success with, and that they could have the background knowledge going into the lesson, and also providing that inquiry-based, hands-on approach to learning science that we know works best, and we know that they're doing as they go up through middle school and high school. So at the 6th grade level, we're doing TWIG curriculum, and I've seen a lot of success in it, and I know that hearing from others around the district coming here today, they've seen a lot of success as well. And it's been really cool to see how the hands-on component used to be kind of like summation of a unit of like, all right, now we're at a point where we can now do a hands-on activity and we can like put the things that we learned together into a lab and see it happen, to where now it's kind of flipped. And I think students have been really kind of surprised at how many hands-on components there are that teachers have prepared for them this year. I know in the slideshow, I saw one slide from a 1st grade student that said, bro, science is cool now. Like, science is like, we do a lot more than we used to. And it's just unified across the district. We just had a student come over from Mountville, and we were able to pick up right where he left off at Mountville with the current, where we were at in curriculum with Model Earth in 6th grade. So I've also been impressed with the depth, specifically when I think of the climate models that we do. That used to be one slide that we covered last year, that precipitation and temperature impact climate. Well, now that's a whole unit that is breaking down, okay, well, what goes into temperature? Because in this latitude and this latitude, the temperatures are widely different. They're at the same elevation, but one's next to the ocean, one's surrounded by land. So it just is a lot more in-depth. It's a lot, as they were saying, it's a lot of storyline, it's a lot of phenomenon up front, and then the kids discovering it along the way. So I've seen a lot of good things at the 6th grade level. I'm excited as the years roll on to see them go up through to middle school and to high school with the same approach to science. I think we're going to see a huge benefit there when it comes to not just testing, but just understanding how science works in the real world.
You may have seen as you look through the presentation, my favorite quote in that presentation is, "The juice is worth the squeeze." Because as you've heard, it is an awful lot of work on the part of teachers and kids. But I was sitting in a data session where teachers were reflecting on, what they've been doing this year, what's been going well, what things they still need to work on. And the comment was about science, and the juice was worth the squeeze. Like, there's an awful lot of effort going into this, but what I'm getting out of my kids is amazing. And so I think that just sort of sums up everything we've heard tonight.
And it sounds like integration is going on too. Like, math is not done just in math. You're doing math. Writing is not done just in writing. It's done in science. And so it all flows together, I think, which is really nice for our students and obviously our staff too, because I could just tell the excitement around it.
Yeah, that was going to be my observation as well. When they were talking about finding the textual evidence, finding the evidence to support it, that's exactly what we asked them to do when they're reading and writing in our Wit and Wisdom program. As a former language arts teacher, I remember that a lot of the pressure for teaching students to write was on me in my classroom, and I would have colleagues to say, you need to have them do more nonfiction writing in your class. And I would think, why are we not doing that in your class? And so I love to see that that's happening across the board, and we're teaching them that these are not isolated subjects, that it's about being learners.
I will say from the, on the junior achievement side with our 6th graders who go to BizTown, they have to get interviewed for their jobs. And we participate in those interviews a lot. And this year, for the first time ever, more 6th graders, when we asked them kind of what are some of your interests in school, and overwhelmingly science was a more prevalent answer from our students than ever before. And I think because of the shift and because of what's occurring and the engagement and through the instruction and the discussion and the writing, you're seeing kids now starting to think, as we heard from our 10th graders, like, I can do science. It's not scary. I can really think through this, and it makes sense. So hopefully we continue to see that transition going. Just thank you. I mean, it is a lot of work, and we know that. But the time, energy, and effort you're putting into it, you're hearing the direct benefit with our students here tonight talking about it. So thank you.
Yeah, and to your point, Mr. Hoffman, about, you know, the teacher saying the juice is worth the squeeze, like, I've also, in teachers at the elementary level where I've inquired, like, so talk to me about science this year and, like, how it's different. That also what I hear from both veteran teachers and teachers, you know, who are kind of maybe a little newer to the district, but just that integration of all of it, like, and the fact that we're already seeing it in our year of implementation. So just a big thank you to all of you, but also for every single teacher out there who's out there doing the work this year. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you so much. This is like why we're here, so this exciting stuff. And now we're going to move into social studies because we're going to do the same with social studies. Everyone's going to want to be everything. It's awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all. I appreciate your time this evening and coming out and sharing your thoughts. So as you know, we have been working diligently on refreshing the curriculum of our core subjects over the past several years. We are on to the fourth of our 4 core subjects with social studies. Today, Mr. Hoffman and Ms. Buckwalter are here to review the pilot and recommendation for a social studies program. So, Mr. Graham, if you can bring that presentation up, and I will turn it over to them.
All right, so in addition to teaching first grade, Mrs. Buckwalter is also finishing up her supervisory certificate in curriculum and instruction. I'm working with her as part of that internship, and she's going to help present with me tonight. So I thank her for all the work that she's put to the social studies side of things as well. So we'll go through a bunch of things tonight. We'll look at the social studies standards that the state charges us with. We'll take a look at the rationale for new program. We'll go through the decision and teacher feedback that led to that. We'll take a look at the financial information and then go through some next steps. So there are actually 4 parts to the social studies standards. There's a part on civics and government, a part on economics, geography, and history. So we're going to talk about 2 programs that have actually already been brought up tonight, so I'll just real quickly review those. Junior Achievement is a nonprofit organization that provides classroom programs for our students in grades K to 5. Our 6th graders go to Junior Achievement in York and participate in a program called BizTown. Mr. Bramerski just mentioned that after they go through many, many weeks of preparation here at school. And second step is a program that Dr. Goodrich was talking about earlier, our social emotional program. We've been using that for 4 years now as a district. So many of the components that are covered in both Junior Achievement and Second Step are part of the social studies standards. So you're going to see those things mentioned several times here in this presentation. So civics and government, really at the elementary level, especially K1 and 2, is probably not what you think with civics and government. Essentially it is, what rules do we have in our classroom? Why do we have those rules? And what happens if we don't follow them? And you can see how that leads into then later studies of what that's going to look like at a local, state, national, and world governmental level. A lot of those civics and government standards are covered through Junior Achievement and covered through Second Step. In economics, a lot of the focus for that is done through the Junior Achievement program. That program specifically focuses on needs and wants. What resources do we have? How are those resources used to make goods? Some people have jobs that are dealing with goods, but other people have jobs where they provide services. As they're then moving into 6th grade, they actually go to, as I said, York and run a town for a day. So they really experience what that economic piece looks like in an actual real town. The geography side of things, we actually cover a lot of geography with topics we currently teach. Mrs. Buckwalter mentioned that with science unit. She was working on where they were looking at that town that was using the sunlight with mirrors to deflect and reflect, and that was because of the geography of that location and the amount of sunlight they get every day. We also cover a lot of geography through topics in our ELA program, where they're looking at stories that they read, both informational and fiction, and where those stories take place and how does that impact the events in the story. So a lot of geography is already covered through things that we already do. Junior Achievement with economy also deals a lot with geography as well. In 3rd grade, there are certain standards that we need to cover based upon Lancaster County geography. In 4th grade, there are certain things we have to cover with Pennsylvania geography. So there are some very specific things that the state lays out there as well. Many of the history standards are also covered through integration with ELA. For example, in 4th grade, the last module we study in Wit and Wisdom is about the Revolutionary War, and so they gain tons of historical background through that unit, through the reading that they are doing. Again, you'll see, if you look at the standards, there's a very specific Lancaster County history piece, Pennsylvania history piece, before we move into national and world history. So, as we kind of took a look at where social studies was currently and where we needed to be, looking at our needs analysis last year, we have several things that we need to keep in mind. The first one is that our current social studies program is consumable in grades 1, 2, 3, and 5, and that contract is over this year. So at the end of this year, we lose materials for those 4 grade levels. In 4th grade, our Pennsylvania textbook is
I'm sorry, but what do you mean by consumable?
Consumable means that, much like our math books, they come every year, the students write in them, they go home with them because they're filled. They're workbooks. Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
And so we're getting new ones every year. 4th grade, we have a Pennsylvania textbook that's 18 years old. It is exceptionally difficult for me to find them. As you can imagine, there's only one state in the country that uses them. They're 18 years old and they're falling apart. And so when I need to find new ones, because I have more 4th graders this year than I did last year, it's very difficult. Our 6th grade books are 15 years old, so again, they are also sort of at the end of their lifespan. As we looked at the programs, as we hear from teachers, I will tell you when I first started here and went to buildings, one of the first things I heard as I was going to buildings, teachers signed up to meet with me. They're like, our kids can't read the social studies books we have. They're too far above grade level for them. Our 1st and 2nd graders, they have a textbook, but they can't read it themselves. You're reading it to them, which makes it really hard for them to go back and independently access any of that text. At the 6th grade level, most 6th grade books are written for a 6 through 8 span because many districts do middle schools in many different ways. And so some of that, the reading level in some of those 6th grade books is very difficult for our kids to access. And then the final piece was that a lot of the things that we already provide through junior achievement, through Second Step, through integration with science and ELA, we're finding that a lot of the content in the social studies programs that we've now been using for a very long time are duplicated. And so we have a lot of pieces of, especially those consumable books, that we're not really using, which is not financially responsible either. So that kind of led us to a decision that we do need to really look at the materials that we're using, and really 3 things that we wanted to focus on. We wanted them to be accessible, needed them to be engaging. So what we're finding with science is when we move to a more hands-on component, we've got the kids. So that was something that we were looking for. And we also wanted something that was streamlined so that it covered what we needed it to cover without having tons of extra stuff that was waste. That allows us to do that better integration with the other content that we're already teaching. And just like you heard with science, with those storylines, if there's a storyline and there's a reason to go with it, the kids remember it. And so if we can integrate it with science, if we can integrate it with ELA, that's when we get the biggest bang for our buck. Taking all that into consideration, we started looking at programs. One of the surprises for me was that there are very few social studies programs available that are not only online. Social studies is not a tested subject, so it's not where the money is for publishing companies. So most social studies programs are actually now online and do not have a text-based component. We were looking for something that we could have kids actually have in their hands as well. We're making a recommendation of Nystrom. Nystrom is a publishing company that solely deals with social studies products. So it's a company that honestly you buy lots of maps and globes from, but they also have some social studies programs as well. So they're kind of an expert in that social studies field, and that's the recommendation that we're going to describe tonight.
So to come to this decision, we did get some teacher feedback. On I think the February in-service day, there were some grade level meetings. Now, not every teacher went to a grade level meeting that day. We had a lot of other things going on. But teachers were given an opportunity to look at the materials for our 3 choices And also, Jason put out an email that if anybody was not able to make it to that meeting, that he was taking these things all around to teachers who wanted to look at them. So we had just about 40 teachers who were willing to give some feedback on the program, and 82% of them selected the Nystrom as their first choice. It was my first choice too. I know you may have seen or noticed the globes back here. There's a set of globes like that for each grade level. You can write on them. There are also mats that have maps on them. And so it brings a real hands-on component to your social studies instruction. And they're colorful, they're engaging, and one of the things as a former 5th grade teacher I appreciate about the text is that it has a lot of graphics in it. That's a thing that's really important, to be able to discern graphics and data and really tell what you're looking at. And so we're gonna start doing that in 1st grade in a real way with, being able to look at these really sort of graphic-based texts and then continue to take that on through the older grades.
Mrs. Buckwalter, when you said 82% of the faculty selected Nystrom as their first choice, was sticking with a more traditional text-based version one of the choices they were given, or was the choice between Nystrom and other online programs?
That's a great question. The two other programs one was the program that we have right now. So it is a traditional text-based program, and the other was McGraw-Hill, which is also a very traditional text-based program.
And I do have both of those back there on the stage. The 3 options that teachers had to select from are all over there, so you can see all of that.
And I have to say, I have serious concerns with what I'm hearing here, because it sounds like the old program was too hard and too rigorous. So instead of elevating our students to a level where they can embrace the rigorous program, we're dumbing down the curriculum. I mean, that's what I'm hearing here. Maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but I mean, we've heard Dr. Danders and others for months come in and give presentation after presentation that suggests that our students are struggling with the fundamentals of reading. So instead of addressing that, we're having them read less. And that seems counterintuitive to me.
I don't think that's the case.
Well, I mean, it's what was just said.
I think it's about making it more understandable. And just like we had a presentation on the science curriculum about making it so that our students can refer back and connect instead of playing the memorization game.
But
Also, I think,
Mr. Williams, I understand what you're saying, but that's not what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is the students can't read.
no, I
That
think
is not what I'm hearing.
Text.
I'm
What
just
they
going to put it
said-
out there. That is not what I'm hearing.
Yeah, what they were saying was the grade level of the text. If the students are in grade 6, the textbooks that they're being given are at a 7th or 8th grade reading level versus a 6th grade reading level.
No,
So
it's-
the texts they're being presented with are written at too high of a reading comprehension level for the grade level they are in. It's not that we're asking them to read at a lower grade level, we're asking at an
So
appropriate.
let's push them. Instead of making it easier, let's push our students to read more effectively.
I think the other suggestion was that the 1st and 2nd grade, were written with dense text for students that cannot read yet fully. So
But most
we can't
first and
just
second
ask them.
graders should be able to read at a basic level.
But that's not how the textbooks are written. And so I think years ago, when textbooks were written, they were written at a much higher level, and it was a lot of teacher direct, teacher talk, teacher explanation. Students very much, as was shared earlier, very passive engagement. And what we're finding, and when you look at the research of reading, when students are more engaged and there are more supports for those early learners, particularly with a lot of visual supports, what have you, that allows them to then engage with text in a very meaningful and stronger way in the classroom, as opposed to it just, hey, here's the book, let's all follow along, because I remember 20 plus years ago putting textbooks in front of 1st and 3rd graders, and they're trying to follow along and trying to read through, and that's not appropriate in the school setting. We have come a long way with textbooks companies recognizing how they should be writing text for students, and that's where we are today. And so the recommendations of the three companies are very different approaches to instruction, not dumbing anything down, making sure we're meeting the standards, but it comes down to now what are we finding is the best approach for our students. And as we're engaging our students with higher level text and more rigorous text through ELA and science, we also need that in social studies, but we also need, like you heard in science, more engagement. We don't want students just sitting passively and reading textbooks. That's not how they're going to learn. And that's not what's happening either at the college level at this point. So it is trying to find a way to make it more engaging, which is what the staff are doing.
And if you look at the standards and the content that's required at kindergarten, first, second grade, much of that content involves words that our first graders and second graders aren't able to read independently. So the textbook, as Mr. Ramirski is saying, is set up to be read by the teacher to the students, but that automatically then puts them in a passive mode where we want them more actively engaged.
And I don't want to belabor this, but isn't one of the most effective ways to inculcate a love of reading and the development of vocabulary is to read to people? And that's why we read to people, and then they then become familiar with the vocabulary. I would be more on board with this if we hadn't seen multiple presentations over multiple years suggesting that our students are struggling with English. I mean, our ELA scores are not good, and they don't seem to be getting better. And I mean, how long ago was it that we saw that presentation, Dr. Dandrews?
We do it every year. I will say that the rigor in the classroom is greater than I have seen it for years. It is one of the most important things that we are looking at. Any assumption that we are not having the students engage in those texts is inaccurate. Like, that is happening on a regular basis.
Except that now we're getting away from the text.
What we're getting away from is some textbooks that have a lot of fluff that don't necessarily apply to the individual instruction that we're trying to have in the classroom. And at the same time, creating engaging experiences for them. I think that all the staff that looked at the materials, who are experts in that area, all overwhelmingly were very attracted to that program because of that level of engagement that they had with the students, not because it was decreasing rigor or not because it was making it easier for the students. None of our staff want that. They want them to be able to engage with that content at their level in a meaningful way.
Sorry, and Mr. Best is online and has a comment, so I don't want to leave him out because he's virtual.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, so looking forward in the presentation, Mr. Hoffman, can you confirm that there are still textbooks with the Nystrom program, correct? It just also has these additional materials that can be used to help teach the topic.
Correct. So there is a student textbook for each grade level.
Yeah, so, to answer Mr. Keener's concern, we're not eliminating, another way to read. This topic will still have a textbook. It just, in addition, has more materials or additional ways to learn versus reading a dense textbook that is sometimes hard to comprehend.
Correct.
I want to just go back to a point I thought I heard you make, and I want to make sure. You talked about some of the other programs duplicate some information that we're already doing in our ELA, our economics, or in our BizTown, curriculum. Were these McGraw-Hill and Savas curriculums? Would you say that that was the case with those? And so a good portion of that we probably wouldn't be using because we're seeing it in other. I just want to confirm that those also had that issue.
Yeah, so as we have looked to integrate the new science curriculum and new standards, that takes more time than what we had been using. So this year we have an old social studies program, new science. So there are many parts of the social studies book that we have said, okay, you don't need to teach Unit 1 anymore because that's covered in junior achievement. You don't need to teach Unit 2 because we cover that in wit and wisdom. And so we would need to do the same thing with those McGraw-Hill and Savas programs if we were to go with those again. which is another piece of looking at why would you purchase a program and then not use large parts of it and have to piece other pieces of it together.
And if I could just comment, that actually was the case before we got this science program. I mean, I started here 13 years ago, and I had a 5th grade textbook that I was using about, 12 chapters maybe out of 24, just because it didn't align exactly, but every year I got those books. Now, I could use them for something else maybe, but one of the things, just talking to teachers, they appreciated that this felt like it wasn't wasteful. I mean, we teachers care about the budget as much as you do. Like, we want our schools to have what we need, but we are taxpayers, and we care about being fiscally responsible. And I heard that comment a lot, like, oh, this has what we need. And when we have what we need, in 1st grade, we have 1/2 hour to teach social studies. And we are teaching rigorous text through wit and wisdom. I don't think you have anything to worry about there. But with social studies, we will also be using texts that have a lot of visual information that helps kids to be able to discriminate when they come into that in the real world. I mean, if you open any magazine, it doesn't look like a novel. It has pictures and maps and things everywhere. So this is a great place for them. The books are set up kind of like an atlas. And so we have maps in front of kids and not GPS. So they're looking at the way things connect, and they're finding their way around. What does it mean when I have this text in this font and this text in this font, and what did that refer to? Does it mean it's more important? It's a skill just as important as being able to read a 300-page novel. It's concepts of print from very early elementary to 6th grade, and we don't want to send them off to middle school or into the adult world without being able to take a really visual heavy piece of reading material and be able to just kind of navigate their way around that. So I apologize if I made it sound like I liked it because it's a coloring book or something. It's not like that at all. It's that I see the value in being able to interpret all of the visual information, and that it's presented in a way that is very engaging. So it's valuable and exciting at the same time, which it's a win-win.
Thank you. That explanation is
Yes.
very helpful.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Thanks. Okay, sorry.
Now
I
money.
got it.
Now
Okay.
budget. Now budget.
It has a consistent lesson structure and the manageable part. Like, we can look at those lessons. I can tell you that a first-year teacher could quickly come up to speed. Veteran teachers can learn how to incorporate this. And because Wit and Wisdom does such a good job of taking our kids all over the place, geographically, we're going to find a lot of connections. That was another thing teachers really liked. So when I looked at the data about the 82% who selected this program, a lot of the teachers who were choosing something different as their first choice, they actually kind of wanted to stick with the old text we had. And it was a few of I think it was the fifth grade teachers, that's a pretty good fit for them right now in their curriculum. So some of that was them, but these books cover the same content. The standards are the standards, and they're trying to hit them.
So financial information, there's some pretty big differences between the 3 programs cost-wise, and there's 2 big reasons for that. The cost for Nystrom is a little over $225,000, so it is cheaper than the other 2. 2 main reasons. Number one, it is not consumable. So the cart that's over here is what every classroom would get. There are 30 textbooks on that cart, and they're reused year over year. So there are not new books that continue to come. Second thing, because it is streamlined, the book that you can see Mr. Keener holding is very different than the ones over there that are like this. So the materials themselves are very different. Just because I know these are some questions that often come up, the other costs that may be built into that, there really are no continued costs for this program. That $225 includes 6 years of online access. includes the entire cart. The only thing that might need to be replaced is if a book becomes destroyed or needs to be replaced, we would need to replace those. They can be bought individually. If the maps or the globes you saw over there, if something were to happen to those, we may need to replace a few of those as well. They do all come with a 3-year warranty, so if something happens to the maps, happens to the globes within the first 3 years, they will replace those for free. Just so you had some other cost background, for the classroom program in junior achievement, for K-5, there's no cost. The program, or the Junior Achievement nonprofit provides all the materials for that. They train volunteers, they go and make sure they have their clearances, so there's no cost to the district for that at all. BizTown, there are booklets that go along with that some of our buildings use. That cost about $3,000 per year for us to get those. There's no cost for the activity in York. Junior Achievement has grants through the state that pay for that. And the Hempfield Foundation has, for the last 5 years or 4 years since we have been doing this, has always paid for the transportation costs to get our students there. So Junior Achievement is an amazing program that costs us literally hardly anything at all. Second step, you've already approved that for the next 3 years, so it was approved last year. This is your first year of this contract, and it costs about $50,000 based upon that most recent contract for 3 years. So when we get to the spring of 2028, we'll be looking to re-up that second step contract again. That would be the only additional cost that would be built into this. You can see the cost of the other two programs because they are consumable, as they are more comprehensive in terms of the size of them. McGraw-Hill's almost $490 and Savas was a little under $550. So just difference in cost there. And that information was not shared with any of the teachers before they selected. Even though some of them asked.
All right, so our next steps would be hopefully to vote to adopt this program on March 24th board meeting, and then we would have some work to do. The curriculum writing would need to begin because now we have our standards, but we have to make sure we're letting teachers know what standards they're getting from Junior Achievement or Second Step or Nystrom, and also there will be some mind to making sure that the units are lining up with whatever we're doing. If there's a wit and wisdom unit that would be a good fit for one of these. So it's just putting those puzzles together and making it really easy for teachers to figure out what to do. The Nystrom books, they don't really have to go in order, so we could pick and choose the chapters to fit the other things we're doing. Other than 5th grade, that's American history, so you wouldn't be jumping all over the place there, but the other grade levels can do that. We'll have we also have to make summative assessments. This does not have summative assessments. If you took a look at the evaluation form, you'll notice we're going to have to develop those. And we do have Mr. Hoffman has some money in the budget to have teachers do that over the summer, and I actually will be doing some of that as my part of my internship as well. And then the professional development with Nystrom would be a 3-hour training. They're willing to come as many days as we need instead of saying you have 2 days or 3 days, so that would make scheduling a lot more flexible for everybody.
So that's it. Any other questions that you have for us? I'd say the materials are over there. The cart is a kindergarten cart. So keep in mind, that's what a kindergarten cart would look like. It's essentially the same, except the maps and globes change. Above that are the teacher guides, which are the spiral-bound books, and then a student book is tucked inside each one of those. The red binder that you see there is the Pennsylvania unit that they have for 4th grade. It is brand new. It's not published yet, so the document is printed and is in that binder. It covers Pennsylvania geography, government, and history standards that are needed to be taught at some point. We do that as a district in 4th grade, so you'll find that in the red binder. The McGraw-Hill materials and the Savas materials, if you'd like to look at those to compare, are the ones that are pushed further towards the door. So you're welcome to take a look at those over the next 2 weeks, and they'll be here until the March 24th meeting.
I have a financial question. Is the amount that you're proposing that we approve on the 24th part of the budget currently?
Yes. What was built in was the 225, correct?
I build
you
into
went
my
higher.
budget for next year 550
Yep, so
because
it'll
I
come
didn't
down.
know what would be
Yep.
selected.
Okay.
So,
We'll come down to it.
Okay, thank you.
and they're actually, I will likely, if it's approved, be able to order some of these materials with money that I have left from this year, because some of the PhD science materials were paid for with a grant.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead, Caleb.
So you said that it's a 6-year contract. If we, after 6 years, do not renew the contract, we continue to keep the materials, right? So we don't, it's not like we have any additional costs there. We would just be losing out on the online access, correct?
Correct. So if after 6 years we decide that we love this program, we want to continue with it, the only thing we would need to purchase would be online access for another 6 years. We would have all of those materials that are kept.
And I guess only if we saw value in keeping the online component.
Correct.
Yep. And then if we change nothing, assume we're not adopting any new curriculum, what costs would there be to just be able to continue next year?
There would,
Or is the default option the Savas, just keep going with that?
we can't because we would not get consumable student books. So we would be able to continue with grades 4 and 6 with the materials we have. And kindergarten with Savas is a big book that's used, so a huge copy of a book that teachers use. But grades 1, 2, 3, and 5 would not have any materials.
Mr. Best, our contract ends with them. So that's why part of this process is to engage in the next several year contract.
So essentially it's the default option is we got to scramble for those grades that Mr. Hoffman mentioned to find something, or renew our contract with our existing provider. Assuming we didn't go with what was proposed tonight.
Correct. And one of the other programs that we looked at, Savas, that 547,000 is our current provider. So that was one of the options that we looked at.
Yeah. And then with the Nystrom, what are the costs for curriculum writing, PD, professional development? The other thing Mrs. Buckwalter mentioned, are those rolled into the 225, or is that in addition to the 225?
There's no cost for the professional development. The company provides that for us, and teachers would attend that professional development as part of their alternate in-service hours. They need to do 12 hours each year, and this would be 3 of those hours. So the only cost we would have would be any curriculum writing hours, and those are built into the budget that Mrs. Dicely and I submit for curriculum hours.
Okay.
Just pointing out, this company which wants to teach our students doesn't know how to spell Pittsburgh.
Again, that's the unpublished version.
That's the unpublished version in a binder.
Still like a yeah. I'll make sure I point that out.
Well,
this is not published yet.
We've had grammatical errors in our policies, so let's all be fair.
I'm just sitting here.
Which is okay, it's a learning opportunity. Just needed to.
It hasn't been copy edited yet, just a plug for
It's
copy.
in the process.
Says something, no.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you for all the work you've put into this, and the teachers and the students and everybody involved.
Should we take a 5-minute break?
Yeah, 5-minute break.
5-minute break before we do policy? Don't lose your momentum, people. Come. already gave her the, wrap it up segment.
I don't care about the
We were doing so good.
You can say that after.
We were doing so good that we couldn't read it.
All right, Meg, let's go.
You got a great job today. I came to the work tomorrow.
Aaron, that's what the gavel is for.
I know. All right, we're going to go ahead and continue with the policy portion of tonight's meeting. I do want to say before I pass it off to Dr. Musser, I have our poster arrived of our principles for governance and leadership, and so we're all going to, I'll give you all the opportunity to sign it tonight during our executive session. So we will display that these are the principles by which we are conducting ourselves related to policy 011, which we passed earlier. And with that, I'll pass it over to Dr. Musser so he can talk through these 6 policies that we have for consideration tonight.
Good evening, thank you. I know there's a couple policies here, but there are some very minor changes in some of the policies. So as I shared with the group at our last meeting, we're starting to work our way back through the 100s again. And one of the policies that I wanted to put in front of the board, and I'm not recommending any changes, we did go through our special ed audit. We did not have any issues. Sometimes in some of the audits, you'll see issues with dates that are on policies. So we are not proposing any changes for 103.1. Non-discrimination of qualified students with disabilities, but I would like a new revision date that the board did review the policy. There are no changes in this policy from any lens. I just would like that review date. I just feel it looks better for the district and in those audit situations.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? Okay, we'll move that one to first reading at the next meeting.
So 105.2 kind of fits 2 of the categories that we look at when a policy comes in front of the board. Number 1, it's in the number series that we're looking at. Number 2, there's also some recent legal action prompting some of these changes. So this is actually a change that was prompted from a recent Supreme Court case, making sure that families have the right to object to certain material, and that is the language that is actually identified by PSBA and by the actual court case as why they ruled the way that they did. So you can see the changes there in yellow. It is an area that the district has done a fairly good job in acknowledging and working with our families in the past. It is a policy, though, that is recommended to have the actual legal name changes that you see present in this policy. One of the other things I want to draw your attention to, Mr. Graham, if you scroll down just a little bit, there is a section in blue in the guidelines that is not part of any of PSBA's language. It is something the district put in place a number of years ago to make sure that the responsibility is I won't say equally shared, but there is a vested interest for the family and the student also to make sure that they're voicing the concerns when it comes to some of the material. It is something that I thought would be worth discussion tonight. It is the only area of real discussion from a policy standpoint. I was just curious if anybody had strong thoughts about either the inclusion or not including 3 or maybe modifying 3, and I'll turn it over to the board.
I think it should stay.
I like it.
I appreciate that there is an assumption having to be made from the perspective of a teacher or a staff member.
Excuse me, my only concern with it, and I do think it's an important piece. I have concerns about perhaps students at a lower grade level who may not have an understanding of why their parents want them to be exempted from it, so they may not catch the timing of when they need to excuse themselves. I'm not sure if I'm making sense.
No, I had the same thought as well, Mrs. Brady, is that, our kid at the elementary level may not know that they are being excused from specific pieces of instruction. And if they do, they are still, many of them at the cognitive level of not advocating yet for themselves because they're young and they're still learning that. So it's not a concern, it's just something I want to make sure we consider when we're talking about age appropriateness of the execution of that particular piece of the policy.
Yeah, I was wondering whether, is there a way that backing this, we sort of have a procedure, especially at that elementary level, for how this is handled, so that families are made aware that this would be coming up, I don't know.
Like a process that our elementary staff and building level administrators are aware of, so that when it comes up, it's seamless.
Yep.
I think for young children, this is more of a conversation when the letter's received, the discussion with the administrator, the teacher, and the parent as to how the child is going to be informed. That should be the parent's responsibility. And then there should be that discussion of what does that look like. So we can definitely put that in an AR piece.
Right.
Yeah.
Great.
And just for clarification, these would be required pieces of instruction that we're talking about. These wouldn't be like pop-up things like,
Right.
So,
I mean,
yeah,
yes
so
or
if you
no?
scroll back up,
Yeah.
From a code standpoint, there are certain areas of instruction that are identified in statute and regulation, and those are those 4 items.
Right.
If there's something that's outside of that, then that would be more of a discussion at that level with what's appropriate.
And
for that
there's a
individual.
lot of this built into already how we handle our instruction with options, with text and assignments, and a lot of times you'll even see in lesson planning, here's an alternative option if there's an issue with it, especially if it's something sensitive. But I think our staff really does do a nice job working with it. It wouldn't be a policy that I bring in front of you because I had concerns about our policy or our staff, as much as updating the policy to just reflect the recent Supreme Court case with Mahmood versus Taylor.
One other note about the blue text is, that text, the way it's written, doesn't preclude teachers from, going and saying, hey, John or Sue, this is where your parent wanted, or, however they do it in a way that's, not embarrassing or whatever. But it's just saying that we're not responsible for doing that.
Yeah.
Very good point. Thank you.
Yep.
It does share the responsibility, and I think that was the intent of a prior board as well. And it probably is more applicable when you get into the dissection activities. That's something we're all more familiar with, where you would see that it was something that was well established ahead of time. We're coming to this section, so it was in regular practice there. This is just making it a little more organized and recognized throughout the regular instructional day.
But when at all possible, we want our students to be advocates for themselves. So this is really a good learning opportunity as well.
Yes.
So I'm hopeful that those discussions are occurring with those students, and how to have that conversation then with the teacher and when is an important piece.
So I'm hearing we're going to leave that section, and then AR communication, make sure, especially from a developmental elementary standpoint, that those are being clear and continue to help students advocate as identified in that policy as they mature.
Quick question, neither here nor there, just pure curiosity. How often is this happening? Like, what's the prevalence of an exemption being requested for something like this?
Not regular.
It's not a regular occurrence at all.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
All right. Thank you. So we'll move that one forward. First reading.
So next policy is a policy that's coming to us again under that there has been a law change. This is really pertaining to the attendance piece, and really what is there is only the highlighted section about the notification. This is a part of the new cyber law piece that came through that we talked about earlier. So these are included in the notification. We must make these notifications when we're making our attendance notification. So a couple changes there, but that's just cleaning up what we send in that notice to make sure we're compliant with the cyber law.
Any questions or discussion about that? Okay. Thank you.
218.1 should look very familiar to you. So this is the conversation, if you recall, back in December. We knew the notification piece under 44 was going to go live in January. We had some initial conversation about how we wanted to address this change as the board and administration, since this was new. So we were, at the time, waiting to see if PSBA came out with any significantly different language. At the end of it, they came out with basically the law cut and pasted into a policy. So we went ahead and put our policy together as we decided that we would from our December meeting. The key piece that I want to make sure that I hit is the incident piece, because that does give the district its flexibility to, Mr. Keener's point, where there's some trade tools involved, even though there's a call out. It has to be an incident that's reporting. It has to be considered an actual weapon. We actually have to discipline for it, and then police have to be contacted about it. So that's what will cause one of those notifications, and we've had a couple go out over the last month or so. Those are the things that are going to register an incident for us. It gives us the ability to leave the weapons definition, which is in debate, and keep that consistent with code, but it also gives the district the ability for the Boy Scout who forgot something that fell out from someone from CTC, so there's options there. We also talked a little bit, I'm trying to think of the only thing that was new. The other pieces that were new were just with the information that staff would receive, that they keep that confidential, so we're not outing students, unintentionally in the community, because it was one of the primary concerns of the initial legislation was if a notice goes out and Johnny doesn't show up at school next day, there's some conclusions drawn there. So we want to make sure that we minimize that, and we're keeping children's records private there. So that is our 218-1 as we discussed in policy. Questions or concerns?
I know we talked about this before. So remind me, if something happens in the stadium at the Quad, where's that?
So if it's at the stadium or the Quad, is it a during the school day type of event or?
Sure.
So if it's during the school day, what we have as our current guidelines, we try to keep everything on the Landisville campus, and the high school administration is a separate campus. If there's something of that nature, it doesn't prevent us from notifying if it was an incident that could impact all parties. Generally, the high school, we have classes over there. If there was something found there, we could actually notify both campuses. The other thing is, if it's a high school football, it's up to us how to determine who properly to notify if it happened after school. But in a situation like that, if it was confined to a high school class that was just in the location, we might decide just to go with the high school location.
So, in other words, it's case-by-case basis.
Really the only thing that's over there from a high school is our phys ed classes. So if something pertained to phys ed class over there in those areas, potentially.
Or hypothetically, not going to happen, but hypothetically, the spring shebang that's out in the stadium.
Field
Right.
day.
Or a 6th grade field day, something like that. We would have to look at
those are unique.
what, when,
Right.
who was involved. Do we need to go bigger? Do we not? And if so, we always have the ability to do more.
We can always do more.
This is the minimum
Got it.
of what's listed.
Just curious. Thank you.
I've got a question about the incident definition. So what would trigger informing law enforcement?
So if there was, I'm just going to continue with that Boy Scout example because that's a consistent one that's used everywhere. At the end of the day, if it's a weapon, we won't argue that. It definitely is a weapon. Because of the person that came in and said, look, I have my old backpack, I was camping and here it is, and they disclose it within the beginning of the day, there wouldn't be discipline associated with that. Then we wouldn't call the police on that situation either. The police sometimes need, depending on the situation, they sometimes need the actual use of the weapon or not just having it alone. There's certain things that
There needs to be intent.
considered that way from a law perspective. So we also wanted to be careful with that. That way we also use the language of contacted the police. So sometimes we'll seek guidance from the police as well. But if those three prongs are hit, we're going to send the notice because that's what our policy says.
So what I'm hearing is if there's a weapon and intent, then the police would be contacted.
Generally, that's a safe assumption.
Or if it's being investigated.
Or if it's being investigated, yeah. I mean, the other thing has to do with age. I mean, depending on how young a student is, the police they're not even coming out.
Depending on what the item is as well, and potentially like a knife depending on the length of the blade.
Right. Because we don't want to mess with the weapons definition because we still use that in those areas. We want to be careful about lookalikes. We don't want to mess with any of that. So this way we can still address that, still have the lookalikes in. If someone uses a lookalike inappropriately where it would rise to that level, we can still address it.
And one of the pieces we have added, and you've seen the messaging, but just for those listening and in the audience, we've included a line from the ones we've had to issue so far the weapon was not used in a threatening manner or, causing, safety issues, things like that, just to help kind of bring down some of the initial reaction of having to read a response like that, so.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
If it's okay with the board, I'm going to lump the next two policies together. So these are policies that were not addressed when we initially went through the 700s. There are some very small changes. One of them in the records one, I simply added a definition that was missing to make it consistent with PSBA language. Some of the times I don't always have language that's consistent with PSBA, but when it's close, I like to keep it close for the updates because it flows a little bit more seamlessly and it integrates into our policies a little bit cleaner. So that's what you'll see here is I added the definitions piece. And then if you look at the next policy, all I did was take the paragraph that was supposed to be, it was in the wrong section. It was supposed to be under guidelines. It's just maybe it's a drafting error. It could have been me, and Pittsburgh's tricky.
Process, it's
Pittsburgh's
okay.
tricky. So it could have been me, it could have been a drafting area, it could have been an area when they put it in that we got it in the wrong section. At the end of the day, I just wanted to clean that section up, but that policy is consistent with current language in the areas around us as well. So a couple of new policies coming up. We're going to continue to work our way through our 100s. I have a couple policies that were still unsettled in the past, so you'll still see some policies from old bounce back, but we're going to start working our way through the 100s in the future. It's not a cool teaser like AI, but I'm trying.
Yes. I just have, and I don't want to belabor this, we have an exec session we need to get to, but very recently we did another policy about borrowing and lending tools and did put something in that allowed staff to borrow things with the permission of their supervisor. That is a different policy than this one, but it seems like there's a baked-in inconsistency there. So I would ask that we resolve that inconsistency. If the current board doesn't want to allow people to borrow things, that's a decision the current board can make, but we have another policy that was just approved within the last year that allows it. So we might want to...
I'll double check that and update it in board news with that policy. I think that language around it's a little bit different, but I'll check.
Okay.
There is a separate sub-policy on lending of technology as well. It's something, it's like
Yeah.
dot one.
That's what I was gonna
I
say.
just need to make sure that we're not having dueling policies here.
Yep, fair
So
enough.
that's it. I don't want to get into this now.
Yeah, thank you.
What?
You want to get into it? I think it might require some research, so we'll get a report back on that. All right. All that to say, you have the schedule of upcoming meetings listed in the agenda. And aside from that, if I could get a motion for adjournment to executive session.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Thank you.